Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noding. In this episode, I'm gonna take you through some kind of setup mechanism where we have a bunch of objects, a bunch of armatures, and for each of this armature, I'm actually using this something called action constraint. So the action constraint part is basically kind of manual, and you probably already know how to do it. I'm actually following one of the tutorial to set this up for the action constraint. So basically, you create an animation for an armature, and doesn't matter how many bones you have, you just create an animation using those bones. And once the animation is done, you turn it into an actions, and then you assign the actions, kind of creating kind of like a driver and driven uh, situations where you can use other objects to drive the actions for the bones. And uh, the modifier looks something like this. The constraint, this is the constraint inside the bones. If I'm actually on the object mode, normally it's a little bit harder to access this bone constraint I found. But anyhow, you can see this setup up here. I'm using a Sverchok Add-On. Basically, I'm basically like filtering. I get all the armatures, and then I'm filtering the armature for each one of the other armature here. So armature 1, 2, and 3, and this one is being the master. When the master actually move in X directions, the other armature should follow. So the setup actually quite simple. So basically, we filter out the armature, and then we get into all the post bones and get into all the constraints, because each and every bones have different constraints, and there's a min and max that we want to control as well. And there's this also start and end for the actions. It's very interesting. Basically, you can, let's say you have another armature that's basically identical to this guy. Let's see what it looks like at the moment. So 1, 2, 3. So this guy, let's have 5, and then so you see number 3, number 4, and number 5 is just doing the same thing. And I don't want that. I want it to be slightly offset. So this is something that I will do very easily inside Sverchok, because inside Sverchok now it's almost like a driver, but it's like really powerful driver. We can do it this way. So now we can kind of offset this really quick. So that's the min and max of the constraint. So now you can see the animations. Okay, the last one probably just a little bit off. Let's check it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now all these 5 have like a different offset of some sort. Okay, so how is this possible? Let's actually get started from the very beginning. So let's delete this and look at this guy right here. So this armature by default was actually this armature was already being constrained. If I look at the post bone and then look at each and every bones, there is a action constraint for each of the bone, and the action constraint is looking at the X locations of this armature. So if the armature goes between 0 and 1, it's gonna do the actions between 1 and 20. And the action is actually the rotation of the bone. That's why we can have this. Now I'm gonna delete all this and gonna save as new. So bone action constraint demo 001. Let's see how easy this is actually. Let's make a couple of this guy. So this is the master. Let me turn on the name. So this is the master armature. This is armature 1, armature 2. Currently, it's going to be doing the same thing. We want to offset our armature 2, and we have another armature. We're going to offset that as well. So let's do it really quickly inside Sverchok. So this is like a semi-procedural, but still kind of cool that you can do this. I start with object ID selectors. Since we're gonna be dealing with armatures, so we're gonna switch this to armatures. Don't specify the armature here. We want to get all the armatures, so this is what we get at the moment. Okay. Ah well. So anyhow, we got all the armatures, but we want to filter it for one for each one of these. So filter, object ID filter, and get the armature. Let's try with a 0, 0, 1. The next thing we want to access is go inside the armatures and go under the post bones, because that's where the action constraint live. So we use a object set, object ID set, and then get into the post bones. And the post bones is a list. So we use that kind of notations. Now we can access the post bones. There are 3 bones, 1, 2, 3, 3 post bones. And for each one of the post bones, we have actions constraint. So we can actually filter out the constraint as well. So constraints, that's how we write it. If we go into the post and observe the constraint, you can see there's a min and max. So that's a min and max, and there's also frame start and frame end. That's for the action. We're not gonna change the frame start and end. We're just gonna modify the min and max. So let's see how we can modify the min and max. Out values goes here, and let's try min and max. Seems like it's giving an error, right? It should be min. It's giving an error. It says list object doesn't have attribute minimum. So this is a quite interesting. It's very Sverchok thing. We need to kind of unwrap the data. So you can see the data at the moment. This one have 3 brackets. The previous one have 2 brackets. But anyhow, we want to unwrap the bracket on this one and operate on the constraint here. So use the list delete. I think list delete level 1 will do the job. So now I believe we already have access to the min and max. Let's update it. This one, let's see. Not a problem. So list object has no attribute max. Is it still giving an error? Maybe list delete level should be level 0. Oh no, it's already working. Level 1. So list delete level should be level 1. And then the next thing you can see on the right side here, we are controlling the min and max of every constraint. We can try like put a random number for random number. Give it create a 3 random number between 0 and 1. This one between 1 and 2, and then plug this into this guy. I believe it should work. So random. Now for each bone you can see it has a random minimum and maximum. That's how easy you can do that in Sverchok. Now this armature number 1 has variations in the rotations, I believe. Or maybe not so much variation in rotations, just the timing. the timing how it bends is slightly different. So for what we are doing, we don't need to worry about randomization yet. We just want to give the minimum and maximum for this guy. So 0 to 1. So now between 0 and 1, armature number 1 will start to move. So now let's do it for others. Select all these, duplicate it. So this one's going to be for armature number 2, all the post bones, and then this is going to be between 1 and 2. So now, yes, now you can see there is a delay for the middle one. Let's do one more, and let's offset it further. So again, this is like gets all the armatures, and then filter just armature number 3, filter out, get the post bones, get the constraint, and then modify it. I think it's very powerful workflow once you understand it. Now you can see this is the master walking down, and then you can see now each of this finger kind of closing. So we have this hidden mechanism. You can hide it, and the animator can animate on this.